Hello, 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 and thank you for joining us tonight for So You Think You Have a Shark Tank Idea. My name is Gabriel Aviles with Full Blast Group, and today we are live with an aspiring entrepreneur, hoping to help them push their business or creative idea forward. We'll be asking, I should say, I'll be asking some probing questions that will hopefully get him to gain more clarity, direction, and motivation to unleash his idea to the world. So if you've ever had a business idea, a creative idea, but haven't known what to do next, stick around and maybe you'll learn something. So feel free to type in your comments and questions, and we'll try to get to them at the end if we have time. So I'd like to welcome today to the hot seat, Mr. Todd Bright.
Hey,
Welcome,
Gabriel.
Todd.
Thank you for having me. This is an honor to be with you. Thank you so
Well,
much.
I'm so glad that you're here. This is really great. So Todd, you and I have never met, but we did meet through the 48, Dan Miller. Shout out to Dan Miller. Dan Miller's 48 Days Eagles group. So it's a great group there, by the way. So you are in Gray, Georgia. Where is Gray, Georgia?
It's near Macon, Georgia. It's in the center of the state.
Okay, near Macon. All right.
Yeah.
So you are a married father of three, and
Yes,
you currently work at Endeavor Air. Is that correct?
that's correct.
I understand. If I did my research correctly, Endeavor Air is a fully owned subsidiary of Delta Airlines, the world's largest operator of the Bombardier CRJ 900 aircraft. Is that correct?
That's correct.
I have
Yes.
no idea what that means, but that's what I thought. All right, so now you have a new idea, and you shared a little bit of your idea with me, but you didn't go into too much depth. So for those of you watching, what we're going to do, we're going to recap his idea. I have here my cheat sheet that he gave me ahead of time. So I'm going to ask him some of the same questions that we've discussed, and then we're going to address some of his challenges, at least hopefully one challenge, and hopefully Todd will walk away with some usable information. And those of you watching, maybe we'll walk away with something as well. So let's do this. All right, Todd. So you told me that your idea is called Dreams to Reality. And by the way, I'm going to be looking to my right. I'm just taking some notes. I'm not ignoring you. Okay. So,
Well,
all right.
thanks.
So,
Hopefully, you don't mind if I do the same.
oh, no.
All
All
right,
right.
cool.
So go ahead and tell me about your idea called Dreams to Reality.
Yeah, thank you. So, as you introduced in my introduction earlier, you did mention that I am a commercial airline pilot. I have been for 10 years. And so in those 10 years, I have met many other pilots, obviously, hundreds, maybe over 1,000, who we chat about how we got started into flying and some of the challenges with getting started. And I'm currently a mentor in another Facebook group where we mentor aspiring pilots. And one of the biggest hurdles that those that have been in the business a while and those who aspire to be in the business communicate about is the financial challenges of getting started. Obviously, it's very expensive. The training is very expensive, and the financial challenges can be pretty great. So there is a currently, you may hear in the headlines, the news headlines about a pilot shortage. There's some debate on that, but needless to say, there's over 630,000 pilots, newly qualified pilots, will be needed over the next 25 years worldwide. So obviously, there's a demand there. There's going to be a lot of folks interested in getting into the piloting field. So in order to kind of help them maybe overcome some of those financial challenges, I'm going to create a course to help them launch successfully, give them some basic financial principles that will put them in a position to weather the volatility of the industry, if you would, that one can see over their career. So, being in the business for 10 years, I've talked to a lot of pilots who did not start off on the right foot and have wound up in some pretty significant financial trouble. So my course idea is to try to mitigate that on the front end, try to teach people how to be financially, I guess, savvy with getting into the training end of it.
So Todd, you're talking about financial challenges related to prior to actually getting into the field, or related to training. Where are these financial challenges that you're trying to address? In what phase of the pilot's life or career?
it's going to be on the front end. When one's trying to figure out how to pay for the training, for instance, it's very common for aspiring pilots to take out massive student loans, as much as $200,000 worth, which is can be devastating, honestly, to one's financial life, for a long time. So, and it causes so much stress that a lot of pilots eventually just give up on continuing with the training and never end up getting into the industry. So, the focus is going to be on people who are trying to figure out the financial end of starting training before they ever start their career.
So training could cost as much as $200,000. Is that what you're saying?
It could be. It's a wide range. The lowest range would be in the $50,000 to $60,000 range, all the way up to as much as $200,000.
So are student loans available, kind of your typical college kinds of opportunities, or are those not available for pilot training?
They are available. However, it's usually mostly private student loans. So those tend to be more costly with higher interest rates. The terms of those tend to be a little more stringent on the consumer, and your options for some of the debt load forgiveness programs, if you would, those are not available.
Okay. So the goal of your course is then to help to alleviate debt accumulated after training, or it's really meant to help them on the front end to minimize the debt that they go into to begin with their training?
Right.
Or both?
It would be initially on the front end.
Okay.
I think if I see a need for those who have been in the industry, if they need some help with getting in or with paying off their student loans after they're in the industry, they already have the debt, then it could be a pivot point where I could go into that end of it.
But your primary goal is to get people, before they start the training, get them financially secure. Well, I don't know financially secure, but to give them some financial IQ, I guess, prior to going into the training. So are you talking about, is your target audience then like high school students, or at what point would someone start to go through this course? How far prior to starting the training?
Correct. Yes, that's a good question. And I kind of see two different answers to that. One would be high school kids, maybe even middle school age, and high school, and then also a lot of pilots get into the career as a second career. So they may be in their 30s, 40s, almost 50s, looking at being a pilot as a second career. So it would be, I guess, a pretty wide age range.
So how far in advance, let's say that I decide that I want to be a pilot today, how far in advance should I take this course, and would it actually take for me to implement whatever principles you're trying to teach me?
So the course would be, if I could get it into a 30-day course, I believe it would be more, it would catch the eye more. I initially thought maybe a 90-day course, but I think the initial course would be a 30-day course, and then I've considered having the opportunity to maintain contact with the client for 30 days or even longer than that, to just kind of help guide them on their path, maybe even act as a mentor as they go through training.
So it's a 30-day strictly video course, right? Not to be a presumptuous, but it's not. We're talking about DVDs. We're talking about an online curriculum.
I have not actually finalized that either. I do want the bulk of the course would actually be an ebook. I would have videos, and there would be some worksheets, financial worksheets. There would be perhaps links to college scholarships that might help pay for training. There would be links to some other resources that I would provide in that course.
So, and I'm sorry if I'm asking the same question again, but I'm trying to get my head around it. So, if you're talking about scholarships and other things like this, they require a long ramp-up time. So the course itself is 30 days, but what is your recommended timeline for someone to actually take this course that will then give them enough time to implement its principles, right? So are we talking about a year, 2 years prior to, or how long?
It really depends on the individual's financial position at the time that they take the course. However, I would say the ideal candidate for this course, where they could get into the airline career as a first career, I would say maybe 13, 14 years old.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're starting them very young. Is this something that you think you'd be marketing then to parents, or just the kids themselves directly, or?
I would expect the parents to be involved, especially with something. We're talking about a young kid's career, and if they purchase this course, it'd be not greatly expensive, but a significant amount of money that they may ask for their mom and dad for. So, yeah, I would expect that the parents would want to be involved, and I would be really open and supportive of that.
So ideally, then you're targeting really freshmen in high school almost, or let's say freshmen in high school, maybe eighth graders, and that are looking 4 years ahead into starting their career as a pilot, and this 30-day course will give them and their parents a good foundation of how to get there, whether it's scholarships or I don't know what the other options are, right? But within that's kind of what your goal is ultimately. That's the ideal place for you, the ideal target.
Right, and the course would steer students, clients away from any avenue that would follow the umbrella of borrowing money. That's really what I want to keep people away from, and I want to educate them on the other options that I have found in 10 years of doing this. Student loans are heavily marketed. There's other options that puts the individual in debt. It's very heavily marketed, and I don't see really anybody else out there saying, hey, there's other options. You can do this debt free. You don't have to borrow the massive student loans and go so deeply into debt, because the rub is this: if somebody borrows $100,000 or $200,000 in student loans, and then their first job in this industry is going to be making somewhere between $30,000 and $50,000 a year, that's just the reality of it, and it puts them in a really bad financial situation early in their career when they don't need risk. They really don't need risk.
Now, Todd, I love the focus as far as the industry that you're targeting, the age group. I'm just curious, and I'm not advocating this, I'm just curious, are there enough differences in this kind of course for aspiring pilots versus aspiring attorneys, aspiring doctors? I mean, so what you're talking about is very specific to this industry. Is that correct?
That's correct. And it's an interesting point you bring up, because I see where this would apply to any individual, not just aspiring pilots, but just like you said, aspiring lawyers, aspiring doctors, any career that has such a large upfront investment on the front end. So, student loans are so common, but we really are in a student loan crisis. We have $1.4 trillion outstanding in student loan debt. As of today, the average amount of student loan debt per student right now is around $36,000 or $38,000 per student. And that's no place to be when you're graduating from college, trying to find your first job, trying to start a family, trying to save money to buy a house. It just puts so much financial strain on the individual that they have to really delay their life for a decade or more.
So it sounds like because of your expertise and background that it makes sense, and there seems to be a huge market specifically for future pilots. However, there's nothing to say that down the road this couldn't be used you could have other versions for different career paths and different people that, okay, well, that's great to know.
Yeah.
So it's interesting in your information that you sent to me, you said that you have a very specific goal of selling 1,588 courses at $99 each by July 31. I love your specificity. Is that the right word? I love how specific you are. Tell me how you came up with that.
Well, the initial goal was probably somewhat crazy, right? So I myself was one of the people who borrowed significantly for the flight training, and I'm paying it off currently today. I've figured out how much money I need to pay off all of my consumer debt, uh, including taxes. My wife and I, our family tithes to our church, so including that number. So 1,588 times $99 per course, you can do the math. It's a significant amount of money, but so a 1 year goal of obtaining that amount of money is a pretty high goal, but I believe I can do it now that I've put it down on paper and I know the specifics and I know the numbers.
Right. I love that. I love that. Where did you come up with the $99?
Honestly, I pulled that out of thin air. I have not done much research in what this kind of cost or what this kind of course would be worth. It may be on the low end, but you
Mm-hmm.
know, I'm also marketing towards mostly young kids. So
Or are
not
you, or is it really parents? It's
or
really
or,
parents.
pa- or parents, right? Exactly. So um, I would take some advice on that end.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't know that I'm ready to give advice without doing my own research, but I would think that if you're creating a course that's going to help save me thousands or hundreds of thousands, possibly in interest and who knows what else,
Mhm.
I would say it's probably worth a nice chunk of change. And have you thought about the modules and the different how long the course would be and the different aspects of it?
Not really. I haven't gone that detailed because, like I say, the bulk of the course will be an ebook. And then as far as what each module, I haven't put together the modules yet. I don't know if that would be video or strictly audio. I just
Mhm.
haven't gone that much into detail with it yet.
Okay, all right. So you still have some work to do there, as
Right.
well as some work to do to figure out the pricing. So you did say that you have done some research as far as the competition. There's nothing out there at all dealing with that's geared towards maybe high school students and how to fund their future careers, or is there? Have you found anything along those lines? And of course, specifically related to the aviation industry.
There is competition out there. They really are quick to steer students towards really debt,
That,
student
yeah, of
loans.
course.
So this course is going to turn people away from that. So, or at least educate them on the other options. So um, there are a few independents. I think of them as mentors, but I'm pretty sure they do have a viable business in the information that they give and sell. But I've not found any of them give any of the information about how to do this debt free like I have in mind.
Now, why do you have special insight, or do you have special insight, or are you just kind of amalgamating what's already out there available to everyone, and you're presenting it in a way that's easy to understand and easy to implement, or do you have some magic secret that others don't?
This really is no magic secret. I didn't come up with any of this.
Okay.
Being on the debt-free journey, I've come in contact with Dave Ramsey, which I know
Of course. Yes.
a lot of people are working his plan. So a lot of this is really the principles that he teaches, and even he says, he didn't come up with this. This is he's just presenting it in a way that people
Yeah.
can follow and understand, and that would be kind of the same thing. I would be able to present it in the light of this is why you want to do this for
Right.
your aviation career. So,
And by the way, I'm not insinuating that you should have some magic sauce that nobody else
right,
has. Like you said, there's probably nothing new under the sun, right? And most things
right.
are a matter of your experience, which you've lived and breathed it, both the career wise, but also it sounds like you went into debt yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then of course, yeah, the way that you present the course and how you do it and all that, you will resonate with certain people that others won't, even if others do what you do at some point soon, right? So it
Right.
sounds like also that the course is one aspect of it, but you're possibly open to doing other things around it, sort of creating a brand, so to speak. I mean, maybe some coaching, maybe some speaking, maybe some live workshops. Is that correct? This is something that could be bigger books.
Sure.
On and on.
There certainly is opportunity there, and I haven't thought too much along the lines of speaking engagements or other books or things like that, but I definitely have seen the opportunity for that, and I would like to be in a position where I could seize those opportunities.
Okay. So you're super passionate about this? I mean, is this something you could see yourself doing possibly full time, or this is just more of something you want to kind of do, but then move on with your life?
I see it as something I could do long term, just because I see a need for it for so long. And yeah, I would not set aside flying totally
Mhm.
to do this because I'm passionate about flying. I love flying. So, but if I could incorporate this and boost my career that way, that would be great.
Okay. Um, so it sounds like you have some good ideas. I think you still need to work on some of the modules and things, but it sounds like you've thought about this. You've looked at to see if there's any competition. There may be some work related to pricing and things like that. Um, so tell me, from a funding standpoint, are you self-funded? Do you think you need any funding to get started, or you can manage what you need to for right now?
I'm not sure what kind of funding I will need. I don't see needing any outside funding. I think as I learn more about how this is going to be structured and figure out what really the resources I need, I feel confident that financially I'll be able to fund this. But I'm not real clear on exactly what that amount of money will be.
Okay, all right. So do you have a business plan that you've started by chance or anything? Or
I actually have not started a business plan. No.
okay, well, it sounds like you had some numbers in mind, but maybe you kind of made those up based on your need, not necessarily based on which is great. It's a great place to start. It's a great motivator. So,
Right.
so tell me, what are your biggest challenges right now? I mean, we've talked about some things you need to do, and there will always be things to get done. But what do you think are your biggest hurdles this second today?
Oh, I remember this question specifically in the email you sent me, and I don't remember the three answers I sent
I can
back
read.
to you, but I know one of them is really time management. I don't have a lot of free time right now. Three kids and a pretty full work schedule. I have another part-time job as well that takes a little bit of time away from the family. So that's probably number one is going to be time management. Number two would probably be really just overcoming the fear of can I actually do this or not? Am I going to follow through on this? This is something challenging. I've never tried anything like this. So
Mhm.
some days I psych myself out and say I can't do this. So, and then the next day I get up and I go, "Come on, you got to do this. You care about this, so you got to follow through." So,
Yeah.
um,
Well, it's pretty common. I mean, anybody who attempts anything great has all kinds of fears, and you wonder if you're the guy to do it. What happens if you fail? What happens if it doesn't work out? Nobody likes it, and on and on. We've all been there. So
right.
you're normal. You're just like everybody else. So thanks for sharing your idea, recapping again for us. So tell me, in the next few minutes that we have here, how can I help you? What takeaway would you want from the rest of this time together?
Well, if you had any insight specifically towards creating a course on how to organize, I have all these ideas floating around in my head of what I want the course to be, but I have no idea how to organize and proceed step by step with putting it all together. That'd probably be the biggest thing.
Hmm. Interesting question. I mean, I'm not an expert in flying. I'm sorry, this is not about flying in financial, but you could. There's probably curriculums out there that you can model that like the Dave Ramsey stuff and some books and things like that, and kind of see. I mean, it may be one of those things where you you and without knowing, I guess, your content, it would be hard for me to give you more specifics. But maybe the first step to do would be just like as if you were writing a book or anything else. It's just kind of throw everything out that you've thought of, any ideas. And there are methods to do that. I don't know if you are you familiar with Pat Flynn? He's got a great book called Will It Fly, and he talks about he uses the Post-it note method, where he just kind of takes, I think it's 10 minutes, and just goes through and just puts ideas out there, anything he can think of related to the course, and don't edit during this time. So set your timer for, I think it's 10 minutes. Set your timer, and just anything that comes to mind, write it on a Post-it note and put it on your wall. Okay. Now, and there's also electronic versions of doing that too. But so, and then just like if in the old days when you were doing research papers at school, back in my day, I'm a little older than you, but we used to have flashcards. And so we'd write down flashcards, and then you'd have to order the flashcards based on what you think made sense. So then try to put some order to all your thoughts, and you'll probably start to see modules kind of come together based on all your thoughts, right? And so then, so that would be one approach to take, I guess, is just put everything that you've thought of and on the wall, and try to make some sense of it. You know, I don't, like I said, without seeing more of what you have, I don't know. There are people out there, you're in the 48 Days community, so you know Brian Dixon. He helps people create courses. There are people out there that have the education mindset that would really be able to help you, kind of map it out step by step. And so, and there are people that create courses more, and they have more of the technical expertise, but they may or may not have the educational background to know how to stair step it. But I think if you can find somebody in your life that is good at teaching and organizing information and presenting it, then so all the ideas in your head, so get it out, and then try to organize it as best as you can. You can think of it as a book project, right? If you were to write a book, you would put all the ideas down, and then you would take it to an editor. The editor would go through and say, no, that doesn't work. You know what? This chapter doesn't make sense here. Why is this here? This, so if there's someone in your life that can help you to organize, it's probably not something that you need to spend thousands of dollars on hiring someone necessarily, although maybe it's worth it. Maybe it's something that does make sense. But I think just think of it as a book, get all your ideas out, and then try to organize, or a paper, and try to organize them. And then as far as the actual, you said it's an ebook as well as video modules. So, if it's video, that's going to be a little bit different. You're going to want to, probably figure out if you want to do maybe short modules, 5 to 10 minute modules. If it's going to be more video centric, then you probably will want to go to Kajabi. If you're familiar with Kajabi, that's a platform that does video. Maybe actually go through a course or two. HubSpot has some free courses. They're marketing courses, but they're good as far as you just getting a sense of the flow. And if it's a video kind of curriculum, there's usually an introduction, and then overall, and then there's an introduction to the section, and then you have several modules, and then a recap. Here's what you learned, and then a new introduction to the next section. So you may just have to go through a few of those. Like I said, I'm sure there's plenty out there. That sometimes Udemy even has $10 courses or something. So do a few, take a few. But I'm not sure if you're primarily thinking of an ebook or if it's a video course or both. Are you still kind of not
it's
sure?
Both. Yeah, it's both.
Is there an emphasis on one more or the other?
I know the ebook is for sure. I would want people to have that access to the information through an ebook, and then so maybe the the videos, or maybe audio. I'm still exploring the best way to make it accessible.
I would think that if I were you, I would consider a video course, because I think a video course has more value, perceived value.
Okay.
And there may be some creative things that you can do. Not only you could be on camera, you could also maybe bring some fellow pilots and other people that on camera. And then the ebook makes the ebook kind of becomes a companion piece, because let's be honest, an ebook has been devalued a lot these days, right? People give ebook download all the time, but if you have a video course, then the same information that you would have in an ebook, if you could deliver that via video, I think that would have a lot more value in the long term. And like I said, you could have the ebook companion piece. You could also do maybe a workbook. You could have bonus content of fellow pilots that would be willing to share some additional things. or not, maybe not, I don't know if it's financial advisors or pilots, whatever. But I think I would recommend that you consider looking into video curriculum and starting there.
Okay.
Now, as far as costs, I haven't researched costs for those. But like I said, you could talk to like a Brian Dixon about that, and he would give you some estimates. There's people in that 48 Days community that know, and I'm sure you can find stuff online of how much it would cost. But like anything else, you could also you're going to want to try this out, right? You're going to want to start to if you read that Pat Flynn book, he talks a lot about testing ideas, and he's kind of the king of the crash test dummy of testing ideas online. So you'll want to you could also possibly even pre-sell the course, which is the Tim Ferriss way. If you know Tim Ferriss, where you're and that'll give you an idea of how many people might be interested, and if you actually have something, that's there. And so maybe it's possible that maybe you do initially come out with an ebook, right? And maybe you parcel that, you release it in blog form or something. You create content slowly over time, and then that becomes your ebook. And then at some point, maybe you sell the ebook, and I don't know. So there's a method to that madness of developing an audience, without necessarily you going all in and mortgaging your house. Not that a course is going to cost you that much, so it may be just as fine, just as easy for you to kind of go all out, so to speak, and just do the course. But there's no reason why right now, assuming, did you say that you have a name or you don't have a name
for the course?
Yes.
Yes. I do.
Can you share what it is or no? If you don't want
I think you mentioned it in the beginning. Dreams to reality. Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Yes. So, maybe, is there any reason why you can't set up a website now and start collecting emails? Maybe set up a Facebook page, and start an email list and see if people, and start to share your idea. I mean, you're doing it right now. I would recommend you share this with as many people as you can. Sure. But start sharing your idea and start collecting names and see people who are interested. And then, depending on how much you're willing to invest up front, maybe you do test it out by seeing, maybe there's people that will be willing to pre-buy this course. Maybe you have 100 people that you're going to sell it at $50 because they're going to be your beta testers, and they give you, and they're the ones that give you amazing feedback, and you're watching them very carefully how they ingest the information or whatnot. You get the testimonials, et cetera, and then you do a more official launch with some of the bugs worked out, with some testimonials and some people that have already gone through it, and it's really helped them. So, but anyway, that's what I'm telling you. Once again, it's nothing new either. There's all kinds of books and stuff that share that kind of thought, the iterative kind of process of releasing something. A lot of it you'll find in Pat Flynn has a good source. Once again, that Will It Fly book. I need to get some affiliate commissions from him on that. Anyway. I would find ways to test the idea if you can and get it out there. Start posting, collecting an email list. Check. You may also start just a Facebook group for people that are sort of test piloting, no pun intended, that are kind of a little bit of a think tank. I've done this before with a client where they have an insiders Facebook group. So let's say you have the Dreams to Reality Insiders Facebook group, and it's for you and your mom and your wife and a few other people that love you and trust, and that you trust, but that you're kind of giving the information. You're saying, hey, what do you guys think about this? What do you guys think about that? And get some feedback that way. I mean, for example, you definitely want to get feedback on the name. The Dreams to Reality is it's not necessarily bad, but I'm not sure that it conveys exactly what you want it to convey, or maybe it's not specific enough. So that would be one thing that I would test, and you don't necessarily have to have that down in order for you to move forward with your idea, but it would be an example of something to test. Is that really going to speak to, we've talked about your primary target looks like, and hopefully I'm not putting words in your mouth, but our high school or early, freshman in high school, let's say a 14-year-old in high school that already knows that they want to be a pilot. So, and maybe you're familiar with the whole notion of, most people have heard of target market. Are you familiar with the whole buyer persona idea?
No.
So a target market would be, I'm targeting men and women ages 14 to 18 that make $100,000 a year. They shop at Macy's, and but it's kind of a broad swath of people that you want to target. A buyer persona is a very specific person that you create. So let's say it's Flying Fred, okay? And Flying Fred is 14, and Flying Fred lives in Gary. Where do you live? Lives in
Gray, Georgia. Yeah.
Lives in Gray, Georgia, Macon, Georgia, and and so create this persona that you have in mind that would be your ideal person, and he's got his parents make X amount of money. He's got leisure time and all that. And then what that does is that even, I think, better sometimes in a target market, really helps you to have an idea of who you're talking to. So then when you think, okay, does the name of my product, Dreams to Reality, is that going to resonate with, what do we call him, Flying Fred? With Flying Fred, is that going to resonate with Flying Fred? And if it doesn't, then then that helps you to know that maybe you need to change that a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's a good way to think about it. Think about everything that you're doing. Find a way to test these things, to test the name, test your pricing, and maybe consider doing kind of a soft launch before you do an official launch, and then let it grow from there. And like I said, just because the course isn't done, it doesn't mean you can't start doing some marketing now of the brand, so to speak, collecting names, securing your URLs, and start a Facebook page, Twitter handles, things like that. To start engaging people now if you can. If that makes sense.
Thank you for those. Yeah, thank you for those tips.
Yeah. So now I'm trying to think. What did you ask me to do? What was the one thing that we were trying to get out of this session that you just told me? I got off track.
No, I think you were along those lines. Just kind of a step-by-step.
Oh, you asked me about the course outline.
Right.
And I said, I don't know, because I don't know all the material. Yeah.
But in terms of just, I guess, just putting together a course, like what steps for any course, any generic course, but is there a step-by-step course? And you did throw out some suggestions. You mentioned the 48 Days group, and I am in a 48 Days Eagle's Nest for course creation with Tyler Beam. So, yeah,
Perfect.
Hopefully, yeah. I'm excited about that. So
so you'll be able to tell me how to yeah, right. I mean, there's all kinds of ways to do it, all kinds of people that are out there doing it, and you could probably Google a lot of stuff too. But yeah, think of it as a book. Right now, you're just thinking of conceptually what topics do you need to cover. I mean, and like, since you already want to make an ebook, just think of it as a book. Maybe that may be a little simpler than thinking of a video course. May seem a little bit more out of reach in a way because it's more complicated in a way.
Right. Yeah.
So just think of it as a book. What would you do a book? And then once you've mapped out your book, and you may want to actually complete the ebook first, because in some ways it could be easier to do the ebook, right? And you use the ebook as a lead, possibly as a lead generator for you. So maybe that's your email. That's what people get when they sign up for your email address. Course coming soon, or pre-order today, and you get the ebook in advance. I mean, I don't know. So. If you're going to do the ebook anyway, I would say there's no harm in doing the ebook now, getting all that stuff out of your head, and then it's a matter of then converting that into video format. And so that's one way to look at it.
Yeah, thank you. That's a good suggestion. I've had that idea. Again, just how to put it all together. But
sure.
Thanks for the tips.
Yeah. So is there anything else I can help you with today? I think we're almost out of time here, but anything else I can help you with?
Oh, Gabriel, you've been great. Thank you for all the insight, and thanks for taking my questions and having me here on your hot seat today.
Yeah, it's been fun. Hopefully it wasn't too hot. You're not burned, are you?
Not burned. I'm alive.
You're alive. All right. Well, thank you, Todd, for being brave and vulnerable today with your idea. And thanks for those that watched and those that will be watching us on the replay. If you'd like to see more of these kinds of episodes, post a yes, please in the comments. And if you have an idea out there that you'd like to present and be in the hot seat, type in "I have an idea" and then go to fullblastgroup.com and fill out my contact information. And I'll see if we can help you here. So I'm open to all kinds of ideas: small business, software apps, courses, all kinds of other kinds of intellectual property. And if you happen to need some coaching, long-term coaching, you can find my packages as well at fullblastgroup.com/coaching. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for the next episode of So You Think You Have a Shark Tank Idea. Thanks again, Todd.
Thanks, Gabriel. It's been fun. Thank you.